Hello. This is a message about what is coming in October 2008, what was building up till now and is going to get serious starting from October. This is taken from a recent report, the transcript of which is linked to the right of this video, along with a very important interview with George Green that knew about this years ahead, and is talking about what people should actually do. 7 days that shook the world. Democracy in America dies. Quote, "The free market for all intents and purposes is dead in America. The action proposed today by the Treasury Department will take away the free market and institute socialism in America," declared U.S. Senator Jim Bunning in one of the most extraordinary weeks in American history that Britain's The Independent News Service has described as 7 days that shook the world, and which asked the question as to who is going to pay for the $1 trillion now put upon the already overburdened U.S. taxpayers' backs. Vast quantities of U.S. government debt will be created, probably the largest issuance since the Second World War. It will be bought, on the whole, by China, with the Gulf states and the Russians taking their share too. One day, sooner or later, it will need to be repaid. It will need to be serviced from day one. That will mean higher taxes and lower your government spendings. Even worse for the American people about this past week's events is perhaps best described by Britain's Telegraph news service in their article titled "Wall Street Privatizes U.S. Government." Be very afraid. Quote from the article: "The world has been changed. Free markets have been abandoned in America at the crucial hour by their chief exemplars, the financial masters of the universe. The causes for these extraordinary events, and is described by the highest officials in the United States, was the total collapse of the American economy, and which we had previously warned about as early as June 28, 2007, in our report U.S. Banking Collapse Imminent, warns French banking giant, and as late as July 1, 2008, in our report China warns the U.S. economy on the brink of collapse over massive dollar outflow." These articles are linked to the right of this video. It is important in our mentioning our previous unheeded warnings that with the socialistic nationalization of the once free market American economy, new warnings must now be issued, the most dire one being the coming collapse of the US dollar. Not being told to the American people is that the traumatic financial crisis they are currently undergoing is but the beginning of their total economic collapse, and which that these past week's events are only the precursors of the more dire events to come. This was previously evidenced by the last century's total collapse of the US economy, which began with their stock market collapse on October 29, 1929, and which began the Great Depression, that lasted for the next decade to the beginning of their World War II economy that began in 1939, and which saw the total remaking of their nation from the republic they were founded to be to a democracy. Important note: the distinction between a republic and a democracy is not an either one. It has great legal significance. The Constitution guarantees to every state a republican form of government. No state may join the United States unless it is a republic. A republic is one dedicated to liberty and justice for all. Minority individuals' rights are the priority. The people have natural rights instead of civil rights. The people are protected by the Bill of Rights from the majority. One vote in a jury can stop all of the majority from depriving any one of the people of his rights. This would not be so if the United States were a democracy. In a pure democracy, 51% beats 49%. In a democracy, there is no such thing as a significant minority. There are no minority rights except civil rights, which are privileges, granted by a condescending majority. Only 5 of the U.S. Constitution's first 10 amendments apply to citizens of the United States. Simply stated, a democracy is a dictatorship of the majority. Socrates was executed by democracy. Though he harmed no one, the majority found him intolerable. As U.S. Senator Bunning has accurately described, these latest events in the United States have now overturned their democracy and have instituted socialism, and which bears a further explanation here. Socialism refers to a broad array of ideologies and political movements with the goal of socio-economic system, in which property and the distribution of wealth are subject to control by the community. This control may be either exercised through popular collectives such as workers' councils or on behalf of the people by the state. As an economic system, socialism is often characterized by state, worker, or community ownership of the means of production, goals which have been attributed to and claimed by a number of political parties and governments. It is vital to further note that the United States had previously established the government structure for the new socialist government when in May 2007 President Bush signed the executive order titled National Security and Homeland Security Presidential Directive. What makes this executive order most chilling, and a fact virtually unknown to the vast majority of the American people, is that since September 11, 2001, they have been ruled under national emergency directives, and which on August 28, 2008, President Bush extended once again. Even worse for the Americans is that their own government is preparing for the eventuality that civil unrest may develop to the coming economic shocks they will soon be facing. And as we can read, as reported by the U.S. Army Times News Service, quote, the 3rd Infantry Division's 1st Brigade Combat Team has spent 35 of the last 60 months in Iraq, patrolling in full battle rattle, helping restore essential services and escorting supply convoys. Now they are training for the same mission, with a twist, at home, inside the U.S. Beginning October 1 for the 12 months, the 1st BCT, which is Basic Combat Training, will be under the day-to-day control of the U.S. Army North, the Army Service component of the Northern Command. As an on-call federal response force for natural or man-made emergencies and disasters, including terrorist attacks. They may be called upon to help with civil unrest and crowd control, or to deal with potentially horrific scenarios such as massive poisoning and chaos in response to a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, or high-yield explosive attack. To all of these events and those to come, if there is anything to say of the American people, it is this: there is no warning outside of their own propaganda media organs they will heed. This is why they continue to be surprised by the magnitude of the events changing their lives forever. For those that forgot to read between the lines, again, they may be called upon to help with civil unrest and crowd control, or to deal with potentially horrific scenarios such as massive poisoning and chaos in response to a chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, high-yield explosive attack. Another 9/11 type staged terrorist attack is probably underway. A Russian source said that something of that sort will happen in the 22nd of September. All other sources are constantly talking about a major event in October. Specifically, the first 10 days were highlighted by 2 of the sources. There are some possibilities, for example, the attack on Iran, which is reported to occur soon enough, the overthrow of government and the becoming of military state in the US, which is already underway. Perhaps the election will be suspended there too.